Oh, okay. My name's John Staats, and this is my son,
Alexander.
And we're from Australia, and we're big fans of Prince August and their products, and I've been playing war games now with the 25mm scale figures for decades. And playing war games is one way to experience the past and to see what happened, test it out. There's another way of doing it is to take it the next step, and that is to do historical reenactment. And in 2015, at the 200th year anniversary of the Battle of Waterloo, Alexander and myself reenacted as part of 6,000 reenactors at the Battle of Waterloo in Belgium. And coming here and looking at this representation just has brought all those memories of years of wargaming, plus the Battle of Waterloo very fresh in our minds. We were over here in this area between La Haye-Saint and Hougoumont, and that was the action zone. This is where Ney launched his massive cavalry charges, and we were in these very same squares doing our best not to get trampled by these magnificent men on horses, 18, 19 hands high, huge men on huge horses. And as they rode up, the ground rumbled and thundered, and then they disappeared, the dead ground. And then all of a sudden, they were there again, before us. And the guards, the Coldstream Guards?
The Coldstream Guards, indeed.
Were a regiment just behind us, and they failed to see the cuirassiers coming. And the order came, and we were in square, we were watching them. The order came, form square, and there they were, magnificently drilling. Regulation march, forming squares, each side of the square closing in. But the back side of the square, the last face, failed to close, and the cuirassiers were in. Now we know at the real Battle of Waterloo, there were a number of squares that were destroyed in that manner, but most squares held full.
Because once you are in the square, it is the second nature of the horse to avoid it. When you're a packed body of men all with bayonets bristling, the horse is smart enough not to run into pointy things. They're smarter than us humans. And they shy away. And when we were standing there, these great horses coming at us, we were encouraged to yell and jeer and hoot at the horses to try and get them away, try and scare them away from the squares, because it really was a case of, even though it was only a reenactment, it was a case of us and them. If those horses decided to run straight through us and trample us, we were dead men. There's nothing that the riders or anyone could do if we were trampled by those beasts.
And those magnificent French cavalry, and they were magnificent, they were game. They did everything they could to intimidate you. The way they crashed against the side of your bayonets on your outstretched muskets, they left huge dents, because it was the weight of the man swinging his sword plus the momentum of the big horse, that when you felt the blow of their blade on your bayonet, it was your whole body shook. Yeah. And the other thing about it was the long grass. We never quite realised how difficult it would be to move in waist-high grass and to form all the manoeuvres and to keep order, good shape in the battlefield.
In absolutely difficult terrain. And that's what it was. It was farmland. Battlefields are never clean-cut, nice areas to walk. We were marching through fields, we were marching through grass up here, so if you knelt down, if you fell over, you'd be gone. No one would be able to see you. It was an amazing experience to see that.
And that's why the French would use the larger blocks rather than a line to get over that broken ground.
Look, the square, the column, the attack column moved quick. And we were over here, and we knew that the battlefield was the arm would have his first attack on this flank here. And so we were more or less spectators at that first stage of the battle. And the way the arms corps moved in in column, they flew down that ridge like nobody's business, and we were surprised about how quickly and beautifully they moved and kept good order. And there was utter surprise on the British side here in line. They didn't expect them to move that quickly, and we were caught by surprise.
Yeah, and our entire left flank, where D'Erlon was attacking the British left flank, even though in the script we were supposed to sort of hold and not be pushed back too much, the sheer weight of the reenactors rushing forward down the hill and the weight of the columns, it pushed our lines all the way back. Our forces were sent flying up the field, and eventually D'Erlon's corps had to turn around and march back to their starting position because they'd gone too far for the script. They'd been too successful because the weight of the column, it crushed, and the sheer momentum of it was unreal.
It would have been a little different on the day of the Battle of Waterloo because of the mud. That would have slowed it down significantly.
We were spared that, thankfully, but the ground had become quite hard, so the furrows were treacherous. And so there were lots of people who were twisting ankles, busting knees, falling over. We had one chap in our square who got caught in the long grass, and the rye got around his knee and he couldn't form square. And there he was, the rest of the line formed into square, and there he was out there in the open with the cavalry charging around him. And he was in real distress.
Well, in fact, he was saved by one of the cavalrymen who actually cut him loose.
Came up
as he rode past, he swung his sword, cut through the grass so he could actually get into square and not be trampled himself.
The guy said, "Are you okay?" And Gavin, this guy's name, Gavin said, "No." And his musket up, "Get me out of here." And he says, "Step back," and he lit, whoosh, and then he said, "Grab the hot side of the horse," and he led it actually back to our square. So there was chivalry on the reenactment of Waterloo. But the final part, and this was really quite moving, the final part is in that space here where we were, that was the final attack of the French Imperial Guard around about 6 or 8 p.m. So watching those magnificent Frenchmen was quite extraordinary. And they likewise kept beautiful order as they came down, and there it was, the silhouette along the ridge. The night was coming, the light was dying. This was Napoleon's final throw of the dice. Send in the guards, smash through the centre, and we saw the guard coming down. And as somebody who normally plays the French, we've been English reenactors on this occasion. It was a real source of pride to watch how magnificent they were in their bear skins, their great coats.
It was absolutely intimidating because to be a member of even the reenactment group of the Imperial Guard, there's a certain height that you have to be, and a certain build and a certain fitness.
You have to be at least 6 foot, don't you?
At least 6 foot. So 6 foot plus the foot-tall bear skin. There were giants marching towards us, and most reenactors, unless you're in one of the elite units, aren't as fit as that. Most are middle-aged older men who have a hobby in history.
Hang on.
And it was really intimidating to see what felt like a really elite, fresh, powerful unit marching down.
Very fit.
Marching in perfect order, perfect ruler straight line, all across the entire length of their unit, right across the battlefield, right over the rough terrain. They didn't break order once.
And that would have been an experience that a lot of the new recruits would have had. It would have been one of their first real battles. And a lot of the seasoned British troops, let alone the Allied forces, were fighting in other areas. So you had most of them, or at least 40-50% of the British troops were still new recruits.
That's right, unseasoned, and Wellington really had to rely very much on newbies.
Yeah,
they were very raw to the game. But that was a magnificent moment, and I do remember the final attack of the guard, and then we laid on a volley, and then we pulled out because there was the famous Colburn manoeuvre, was where part of the British line flanked the guard as they came up and gave them a fire along the flank.
Yes.
And that was reenacted. So we pulled out, we were able to watch that, and I couldn't help but give the French a salute. So it wasn't in the script, but when we saw the French, when we pulled out, we gave them a royal salute. Yeah. And the nice thing about it was it was returned. Yeah. And there was again that little moment where everybody there was doing it for to commemorate and remember this historical event, and there was that nice...
A love of history.
A love of history. And there they were, really getting involved in the true spirit of it and remembering it for what it was, one of those events that changed the world. And it's been superb to be here and see it in figure form.
Thank you very much.